Hey everybody, it's Brian from A Life After Layoff, and today I want to talk to you about resumes. Is your resume holding you back? If you're applying for position after position and you're just not getting any calls, chances are your resume isn't helping you. You have to have an optimized resume in order to stand out from the crowd. As a corporate recruiter for some Fortune 100 companies, I can assure you that we get a lot of applications. And in fact, in some positions, and depending on the company, they can get anywhere from 200 to over 1,000 applications for a single role. Now, I'm working on anywhere between 15 to 25 recs at a given time, and do the math. I just don't have time to look at every single resume that comes across my desk. So generally speaking, I will give your resume at best 5-second glance. So you have 5 seconds to catch my attention, and if I don't see what I'm looking for, then I'm going to skip on to the next one. Now, when I have a new position that I'm recruiting, I will sit down with the hiring manager for that role and we'll develop an ideal candidate profile. It'll be a list of all of the skills, experiences, backgrounds, industries, all of the things that hiring manager needs to see in order to seriously consider a candidate. So when I'm screening my candidates on the back end, I'm using that profile to help calibrate against the candidate that's being submitted. So if your resume doesn't match up with my profile, I'm not going to see you. And if I don't see what I need in the first 5 seconds, you're going to end up in that no pile almost instantly. It happens that fast. So your goal is to try to make me stop, take a little closer look at your resume, and read into the details more. Because with each role that I recruit, I know exactly what I'm looking for because that's what the hiring manager is looking for. So we recruiters screen for profiles that we know are going to have the best chance of success of getting through the entire hiring process. So there are ways to get past me as the gatekeeper if you know what you're doing. Let's talk about some of them. First, how optimized is your resume? Well-optimized resumes take on a lot of different aspects. It could be anything from design decisions, the layout of your resume, the kind of colors that you use, the kind of fonts that you use, where you put your headlines, how do you use your titles, where you put your keywords, all of those different things. So if any one of those aspects is not completely optimized, you're hurting your chances of being noticed. Now, an optimized resume is not something that you do one time and one time only and you think that you're done. It's an ongoing skill that you will continue to use throughout your entire career. Now, me personally, when I've applied for different positions, I've actually updated and optimized my resume for each individual job, especially positions that I'm particularly interested in. So learn to optimize if you're serious about getting results. If you're just not sure your resume is standing out from the crowd, here's a few suggestions on how to improve. Make it simple and easy to read. Listen, if your resume is poorly formatted or it uses a really funky font and it's just hard for me to get through, I'm not going to take the time to read it. I'm just being honest with you. I'm just going to stick it in the no pile and move on to the next one. So what does a poorly formatted resume look like? For starters, if you have big chunks of text. Looking at big chunks of text, first of all, you shouldn't be putting that much stuff on your resume to begin with. And second of all, if it looks very unwieldy, I'm not going to take the time to read it because it requires more effort than I have time for. Again, you only have 5 seconds. I'm sure you've seen it before. You go on the internet and you read somebody's post and they've got a long block of text with no paragraph breaks. Quite frankly, it's lazy and it makes it a lot harder to follow along what they're trying to say. It's also inconsiderate to the audience, and not to mention, you shouldn't have big paragraph chunks on your resume anyway. Fonts should be easy to read too. Avoid any kind of handwritten or cutesy fonts you found on the internet because you thought maybe they were cute. Now's not the time to show your personality. I would stick to just a simple sans serif or serif font, make it nice and clean and easy to read, and I would only use one font throughout the entire resume. The same goes for color. Stick to simple black, maybe blue. I wouldn't use any kind of other color like pinks or purples or greens. Just stick to basic, easy to read standard colors. Also, the human eye likes to see symmetry and balance. So when you're looking at margins, make sure that you've got a decent margin around and you're leaving some white space because it'll be easier for the human eye to scan through a resume really quickly. If you've got too much going on, it's going to be a lot harder. It's going to be a little bit more intimidating for the recruiter. We're not going to spend as much time going through it. In this day and age of spell check, I can't believe I even have to say this, but spelling and grammar mistakes are a big no-no. And I'm going to tell you this, if you have a spelling mistake or grammar mistake, we will hold it against you. At best, you're going to be judged as being sloppy and not paying attention, and at worst, we're going to look at you as somebody that might be uneducated. With spell check being so readily available, there is no excuse for not having a perfectly formatted resume. Alright, so let's talk about quantity versus quality. I'm a big proponent of quality over quantity. I do not need to know every single thing that you've done in your career. Recruiters like to know what major accomplishments you've had and how they relate to the position that we're recruiting for. We don't need to see every little task that you've ever done. Focus on those major accomplishments. Now, if you're a junior level person, somebody that's probably got less than 10 years of experience, you realistically should be able to fit your entire resume on one page. If you're a senior level candidate, you may have to use a little bit more real estate, so going to a second page is fine. I would try to avoid going to a third page unless it's absolutely necessary. Now, one approach is to take any less relevant early career jobs and condense them into other employment, and you can just list out the job titles. If I want to know more about those, I'll dig into them, but I don't need to necessarily see you list out things that you did 30 years ago. Another important thing, do not cut and paste the job description. That's one of my biggest pet peeves, and I will almost never call you for a position. If you simply cut and paste your current job description into your resume, I'm going to assume that you added no value to your organization, and I'm not going to give you a call. Again, focus on your career highlights. That's the stuff that I want to see, especially as it pertains to my position. Which leads us directly to building your resume for the role. The days of having a single resume for all positions is over. Get into the habit of creating a new resume or a tailored resume for each individual position that you're applying for. That way you can customize it to highlight job titles or duties or specific things that you've accomplished that directly relate to the position that I'm recruiting. That's going to help you get noticed more easily by a recruiter and get that phone call. Listen, you're looking for any advantage that you can get. I know it can be tedious to create new resumes or hybrids of resumes for each individual position, but if it lands you that dream job, the effort is totally going to be worth it. The next tip that I have is experiment. If you find that you're not having a whole lot of success with your current resume, try to mix it up a little bit. Maybe switch around the format, try a different layout, work on job titles that might be a little bit different. Maybe revise those accomplishments. Emphasize more recent work and de-emphasize stuff that you did a long time ago. Look for any way to freshen your resume up. Try a few different versions and see what works best. The point is to try something new. If something is not working, don't stick with it. Try something different. Now, this doesn't mean that you should make wholesale changes to your resume each and every time you apply for a position and don't get a call back. But use a critical eye and use your best judgment to make some changes to your resume when you think it's the right opportunity. If you've been applying for positions for a while and you're just not seeing a result, mix it up a little bit. It's all about finding the perfect balance. Keep in mind that most job searches take a minimum of 6 months. So if you've only been doing this for a couple of months and you're just not getting any result, don't feel like you're doing something completely wrong, but try to understand where you might be able to improve, learn what those things are, and put together an action plan and try them. Just the fact that you're on this page right now shows that you're serious about your job search and you're trying to improve, so I give you a thumbs up for that. Take some time to go through your resume, do the revisions, maybe have a friend or family member look at your resume and give you some feedback, but ultimately try different things and see what works for you. If you still feel like you're struggling to get traction, feel free to jump over to my website, which is alifeafterlayoff.com. I'll leave a link in the description below. I've got a ton of free resources on how to get noticed by recruiters and then get through the entirety of the hiring process. If you found value in this video, feel free to give me a like and a subscribe. I'll be bringing regular content to you, and I'll be helping you land the dream job that you always desired. Till next time, guys.